Humans are tuned for relationship. The eyes, the skin, the tongue, ears, and nostrils all are gates where our body receives the nourishment of otherness. This landscape of shadowed voices, these feathered bodies and antlers and tumbling streams, these breathing shapes are our family, the beings with whom we are engaged, with whom we struggle and suffer and celebrate. For the largest part of our species' existence, humans have negotiated relationships with every aspect of the sensuous surroundings, exchanging possibilities with every flapping form, with every textured surface and shivering entity that we happen to focus upon. All could speak, articulating in gestures and whistle and sigh, a shifting web of meanings that we felt on our skin or inhaled through our nostrils or focused with our listening ears, and to which we replied, whether with sounds or through movements or minute shifts of mood. The color of the sky, the rush of waves, every aspect of the earthly sensuous could draw us into a relationship fed with curiosity and spiced with danger. Every sound was a voice. Every scrape or blunder was a meeting with thunder, with oak, with dragonfly. And from all of these relationships, our collective sensibilities were nourished. That's from the preface to a book called The Spell of the Sensuous by David Abram. Here's another quote from Thomas Merton. The rain surrounded the cabin with a whole world of meaning, of secrecy, of rumor. Think of it. All that speech pouring down, selling nothing, judging nobody, drenching the thick mulch of dead leaves, soaking the trees, filling the gullies and crannies of the wood with water, washing out the places where men have stripped the hillside. Nobody started it. Nobody is going to stop it. It will take as long as it wants, the rain. As long as it talks, I'm going to listen. We're beginning what I'm going to refer to as a Mercurial week. 3 of the 4 aspects that I perceived transpiring this week are Mercurial in nature. In other words, Mercury is seeking to offer something for consideration. Are you listening? Are you paying attention? Can you hear between the cacophony of sound that we often fill the spaces around us with? Before I dive too dynamically into the astrology for this week, I'm going to look at one aspect from last week, which transpired over the weekend. This would be the full moon in Leo. if you look at this chart that I have up, what you might notice is this big giant T square. Doesn't that remind you of something that your geometry teacher was trying to get you to understand, that in this isosceles triangle with the 90-degree angle down here in the corner, these two angles are equal, 45 degrees apiece, 180 degrees if you add all the degrees up. There's the 180 running across the chart. Full moon across from the sun. You can kind of see it's only a degree away from fullness. So within a couple of hours of this time frame, it was full yesterday, about 10:30 in the morning. But not often spoken about is this Uranus at 90 degrees from each of these two aspects, sitting there at the crux of that midpoint, all here in the, what shall we call them, the mid degrees of the fixed signs, Aquarius, Taurus, and Leo. The Aquarius factor that is in play right now has to do with, group energy. What aspects of the group format do you sense could be in play right now? The full moon in Leo says, are you paying attention to what is going on right now on the larger stage of life? Something is asking us, are you willing to take a chance? After all, that is essentially what Leo stands for. The adventure of pushing yourself beyond the comfort zone, taking those chances that are going to expose us to things that we have perhaps not been exposed to before. This was the flavor of yesterday's full moon. It's still basically living out that footprint. Now, at the crux of this consideration was Uranus sitting down here at 15 degrees of Taurus, saying, if you're willing to take a chance on something that you haven't really done before, what might be the ramification? Uranus is sudden, often abrupt changes. There's a rattling of the cage that transpires whenever Uranus is involved. Now, two main different possibilities could exist for how to play out this T-square. One is the penchant of some folks to be so frigging determined to head in a particular direction where they sense they need to be going, to such an extent that they block out the peripheral of events and things going on because they're so set on getting to this goal, so to speak. Well, this full moon, from that Uranian perspective, is going to present for those folks challenge. The cages will rattle rather adamantly to say, are you sure that is the direction you need to be going in? Oh, yes, it is, the response might come. I know this is where I need to be headed. And, you know, what cost do you think is it going to ensue from that trajectory, momentum that doesn't foresee options that might be on the table? These are folks that this full moon is going to challenge. Another archetypal personage who sees the potential for option in this life path that we are walking is not so hardened and set on a particular trajectory that says this is the only way to go. Oh, no, not. The avenues, the potential for perceiving what's going on around these types of people might actually inspire within them a new direction, putting in an appearance that says, this should be investigated. These are two very different perspectives. Both brought into play at the time that was going on, that we needed to pay attention to from our own awareness and factors and living process. So now on to the astrology of this next coming week. Here it is. It's Monday. And you will notice this little blue sextile line here between Mercury up here in Capricorn and Neptune down here in Pisces. There are other aspects going, but this is the one that I want to focus on for right now. Mercury, how we think, how we communicate, what messages are attempting to get our attention. Well, Mercury, we know what that is, but Neptune down here in Pisces has the capacity to open up versions of inspiration that might perhaps easily not grab our attention, because the subject matter of what Neptune in Pisces represents requires us to let go of things that might seem overtly important in our day-to-day rush to be here and do that and accomplish this, that, and the other thing. But it's Neptune in Pisces. Neptune is has a modern affinity with the sign of Pisces. Pisces is the deepest and most profound energy of the entire zodiac. It represents the culmination of a cycle or a process where what transpires within is how best to put this? I think a cauldron as being an appropriate image to keep in mind whenever Pisces is brought up, because herein is a melting pot of all of the life energies on many different levels being cooked. You can almost sense and feel the bubbling conversation coming from that cauldron saying, is that thing that was placed into the cauldron, has it been there long enough? Do you sense in those little bubbles erupting from the surface new opportunity or the release of those things that are no longer relevant? This is Pisces, Neptune. The realms of unlimited imagination, illusion are at work. Here is the dream space. And so, Mercury, how we think, is right now being tingled, tickled by the dream space, asking us to, perhaps set aside our ambitious desires to do this and that, to be this or that, but to let go and allow some clearing to transpire as we release those things that are no longer relevant to the current moment. This is Mercury speaking with Neptune along an angle that's sextile, which means these two elements, earth and water, actually can communicate relatively well with one another. It's not a challenge. It's half of a trine, which is 60 degrees, which is the same elements conversing with one another. But now, what are your dreams telling you at the current moment? The potential for insight, it's there. Oh, yes. Are you paying attention? Do you have a dream journal? Are you meditating on any regular basis to get inspiration and insight from all the avenues of life around you, beckoning your participation in the larger matrix of unfolding life? Next aspect for the week, it's Venus. Venus, how we engage with one another. Also in Pisces, where, it is said that while it's in Pisces, it's exalted, which means it's essentially, it's overtly comfortable to be in that Piscean environment. It's being given support. It's exalted, which means that this is a unique opportunity to tune into, if you will, how is it that your relationship with, how is it that you're in relationship? I'm not going to try to hone in that with factor, because we'll call it the magic of what can be inspired as we relate to anybody, anything, as in that quote to begin with. Can we, in our relationship with life, hear those conversations with other than human? They are transpiring. This astrology tool that I use is that very thing. These planets are in conversation with one another. So here it is, it's Wednesday, a Mercurial day, by the way, and Venus is coming into sextile with Uranus. You know, expect the unexpected. Might there be the potential for deeper, more profound levels of interaction that are vying for our attention right now beyond those zones of comfort that often are sought to the exclusion, unfortunately, of times when it's not quite so comfortable. Are we paying attention to what it may be attempting to converse with us from more than just this human perspective? It might show up rather suddenly. After all, it is Uranus. Uranus is in the sign of Taurus, which has everything to do with this Mother Earth energy. Can you hear, as in that quote, the conversation the rain might be attempting to stimulate within you? We here in the Northwest, hey, it's that rainy time of year. And so I'm listening to the soft patter of rain upon the window, falling and dripping from leaves of the trees, allowing the blades of grass to dance with excitement for the infusion of this falling liquid from the heavens. Mercury, there's a conversation that this Wednesday might inspire our senses to open just a bit wider. Friday, often seen as the culmination of the week. Well, it's the culmination for many of the work week. I've been retired now for a number of years, so 7 days a week, the opportunity to do work or things it's always there. I don't have the, what shall we call, the stipulation of a 5-day work week demanding that I, keep my nose to the grindstone in whatever endeavor that I'm working at. And I've discovered through retirement that it is 7 days a week that I'm keeping my antenna up to perceive that which is beckoning my attention to participate with. It may require some very strenuous work on occasion, whereas other times, the opportunity to stroll out through the land and engage in conversation with the beings that inhabit it. I, in that instance, being one of them. So here we are, Friday. Another Mercurial aspect. Mercury, Pluto, at the same degree, only a few minutes apart. Mercury, other than the moon, the fastest of the orbiting bodies around the sun. 3+ times every year, it goes entirely around the sun. Pluto, 250 years to make one circuit around that sun. So you might sense this on Friday. Just, relax into the experience of what thoughts are going to be inspired as the quicksilver, mercurial, trickster, communicative, storyteller kind of energy flashes right there across and a connection, saying to Pluto, the slowest of the planets, what do you, Pluto, have to say in this moment from the wisdom of your long trajectory around this glowing sphere? And to us, as participants on this third rock from the sun, might there be the potential for profound insight that might bubble to the surface? Give us a perspective that has a long footprint. It's not, quicksilverish fast. That energy is just an awakening spark to a sense of the ongoing energy of life as it always has continued. We as a soul are of a very long footprint, multiple incarnations on many worlds. And this connection of Mercury and Pluto on Friday could, if we are willing, give us some insight into the amazing and long story of what it means to be a soul, doing this life dance currently in our walkabout on this planet. But that's only right now. Can you sense, as your foot connects with this earth underneath us, your participation with this natural being for this moment as part of an eternal story that you have come to share with everything? And for just one last Mercurial energy signature for the week, Saturday, Mercury shifts into Aquarius. From the earthen energy of Capricorn, ruled by Saturn, into the airy air energy of Aquarius, also ruled by Saturn. These are the two Saturnian signs, Capricorn and Aquarius. There's a practicality that is represented by Capricorn that, in a way, is played, I'm going to say, just differently in the Aquarian factor. But you will notice Saturn is still going through Aquarius. So the Saturnian aspect of, developing something that is new, innovative, has the capacity to bring people together. And, even as I say that, there's a cacophony of otherness voices that put in an appearance like a choral song being presented from all the rest of life, saying, we are present too. All of this experience of life is asking to be involved, engaged with, to slow down enough from this human race. And that term really does cover a lot of ground, that often the speed with which humanity is accelerating forward in the mental technological sense, and quite unfortunately is leaving behind an essential part of why it is that we are here as soul beings incarnate in this earth plane. Are you learning? Are you paying attention to the conversation that all of life around you is presenting, with an attempt to get your attention, to converse with this magical place, this magical time? It is a magical time. I chose an image today that kind of sits at that focal point between the essentially human process and at the same time the potential to dream. The whales can communicate around the globe, no matter where they are, with one another. My sensing is that it is likely that the ears or perception of other beings that currently dwell on, of, and are part of this earthly environment also are attuned to that song that reverberates through the watery realm of earth. And earth, being the container within which this water sits, perks up its ears when a whale sings. And all those beings that are rooted within the planet sing right along with them. This image, which I painted long ago in my Whale Dream series, is the potential for a birthing moment or experience that seeks to be initiated. So just one question. Are you listening? And if so, are you communicating back as life, the magic of life, all around you seeks your participation in this dance of life? That's all for this week. Sorry I missed last week, but the schedule just went all kinds of different ways, and just the immensity that life presented to me last week didn't give me the time to sit down and share with you the conversation that our planetary compatriots are always having with us. So until next week, ciao.